Okay, Professor Bear here. I came across an interesting paper. This is a Nature paper. Currently, it's a preprint Nature paper. So I'm just going to summarize why I think it's interesting. So, what they're doing is they're doing a bunch of agents to act as research scientists. So, what they did is they created a team of agents, essentially one to mimic an immunologist, one to mimic machine learning specialist, one a computational biologist to do work. And so if this were a real team, it would have the principal investigator. They essentially have a real human principal investigator, but according to them, it spent about 1% of the time giving feedback to these virtual robots, agents that are acting it. It would have an immunologist and a computational biologist and a machine learning specialist. These were the agents to come up with potential candidates. The lab technicians' experimental validation still needs to be done by hand. So that wasn't done. The validation is not being done by agents, just sort of the research, finding potential nanobody, antibody candidates. And just the difference between nanobodies are smaller and more specific, but it's sort of the same idea of an antibody. You inject it and it gives you an immunity. Nanobodies are typically smaller, single domain. How they're derived is a bit different. The idea is basically the same idea of an antibody, that you inject something that gives you immunity. So they got a bunch of nanobody candidates, essentially antibody candidates, and they found that 90% of them were expressed and soluble, and two are promising. That is, they seem to get a good immune response. Those numbers are comparable to what if human beings, if you had a real research team doing this, would get. The difference here and why this is interesting is this is something they slapped together, I think, in a week or two, and just has some agents do, according to them, 99% of the research work. By research work, I mean coming up with potential candidates here. That's kind of amazing because what they're doing there is a lot of literature research, particularly scientific research and medicine, is going through hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of abstracts and digging for a little information. Bots are good at that. And so this direction of sort of having labs, not just in immunology and in medical research, but my bet is people are going to have research labs for marketing, research labs for finance, research labs for whatever. Anything that can be done, not wet lab, where you're actually hands-on doing things. You need people to use pipettes and do that. I mean, robots will do a little bit of that, and there's some robotic pipetting, but this is about the research aspect of that. According to this paper, 99% of it was handled by these virtual agents. And whenever we compare any kind of agentic system or AI system, the baseline is basically humans. Can it do as well as humans? And according to them, it got sort of human rates of success on these kinds of tasks, which is kind of interesting and amazing. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Read it for yourself. Go ahead and download this paper and read the paper. The paper is here. I don't know why they do this, where they make the paper sort of hard to read by putting all this stuff on it, but it is what it is. So that's it. Interesting paper. I think this direction is going to be a big one, and now, but over the next year or two, not just in wet labs in genetics and biology, but pretty much in any industry that does research, which is pretty much every industry. So that's it. Like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, whatever the terminology is. I'll talk to you later.